The Bread and the Puppy. In a small village nestled between rolling hills and whispering fields of golden wheat, there lived a boy named Arif. He was no stranger to hunger, no stranger to nights when the stomach growled louder than the crickets in the fields. His father had passed away when Arif was just a child, leaving his mother to work tirelessly in the fields, earning just enough to keep a roof over their heads and some food, though rarely enough for comfort, on the table. Arif was 12 years old, tall for his age but lean, with sharp eyes that noticed everything. He wasn't a boy who complained. He knew life had handed him little, but he carried himself with a quiet dignity, as though some invisible force whispered to him that struggles could one day forge strength. Most mornings, Arif woke before the rooster crowed. He would fetch water from the well, help his mother with chores, and sometimes go into the fields with her. On rare days, when his mother managed to sell a basket of vegetables in the nearby town, Arif was rewarded with a small piece of bread. It was not bread baked in ovens with butter and yeast as the wealthy enjoyed, but a rough, hard loaf, sometimes stale, sometimes dry. Yet to Arif, it was treasure. He would break it slowly, chewing each bite with reverence, stretching the moment as long as possible, as if he could trick his belly into believing it was full. One such morning, when the sun was still yawning behind the horizon, Arif set off toward the river to gather some firewood. His mother had saved half a loaf of bread from the day before and given it to him, wrapped carefully in a cloth. "Eat it slowly, Arif," she said, pressing the bundle into his hand. "It will have to last until evening." Arif nodded. His mother's face was drawn and tired, but her eyes were kind. He slipped the bread into his pocket and set off down the dirt path, barefoot, the cool morning dew kissing his toes. The village was quiet at that hour. The air smelled of earth and damp leaves. He liked this time of day, when the world seemed new, and even the hardships had not yet begun to press down. As he walked, he thought about saving the bread until later, but the aroma of wheat wafting faintly from the cloth made his mouth water. He hadn't eaten properly the day before. His stomach twisted with longing. He stopped by a tree stump, unwrapped the cloth, and looked at the bread. It wasn't much. Half a loaf, dense, brown, and cracked. But to Arif, it was a small fortune. Just as he was about to tear off a piece, he heard a faint whimper. At first, he thought it was his imagination. But then it came again, softer, fragile, like a cry carried by the wind. He looked around, puzzled. From behind a cluster of bushes near the path, a small puppy emerged. Its fur was matted, dirty, and thin. Its ribs stuck out like the fragile frame of a bird. The puppy stumbled toward him, its tiny legs trembling. Its eyes, dark and round, looked straight into Arif's, and in them was something he recognized: hunger. Arif froze. He looked at the puppy, then at the bread in his hand. His first instinct was to clutch the bread closer. He had so little. This bread was meant for him. His mother had given it to him with careful words. Without it, he would have nothing to eat until night. The puppy whimpered again, sitting down as though its legs could no longer hold it. It looked at him, not with demand but with silent plea. Arif's chest tightened. He could almost hear his stomach arguing with his heart. His body screamed, "Eat it. You need it." But another voice inside him whispered, "This creature is smaller, weaker, hungrier." Slowly, almost painfully, Arif broke off a piece of the bread. It wasn't much, just enough to fit into his small hand. He bent down and placed it on the ground in front of the puppy. The puppy sniffed at it, then devoured it eagerly, crumbs scattering in the dirt. It licked the ground as though it feared the food would vanish. Arif watched silently, torn between the ache in his own belly and the quiet warmth blooming in his chest. The puppy looked up again, wagging its thin tail. Its eyes, once dull, now glimmered faintly with life. Arif sighed. He broke another piece from the loaf. "Here," he whispered. "Don't look at me like that. Take it." The puppy ate again, faster this time. Arif felt his stomach knot tighter. Half his bread was gone, and still, he was hungry. But when the puppy licked his fingers, something strange happened. The ache inside him didn't disappear, but it softened. For the first time in a long while, Arif felt full in a way that had nothing to do with food. By the time the puppy finished, there was only a small chunk of bread left. Arif hesitated, then placed it back in the cloth. "That's all I can give you," he said firmly, though his voice trembled. "The rest is mine." The puppy wagged its tail, as though grateful. Then, as if deciding that Arif was now its family, it followed him down the path. At first, Arif tried to shoo it away. "Go on. I can't take care of you," he muttered. But the puppy refused. It limped along behind him, its determination stronger than its frail body. Finally, Arif gave up. "Fine," he said. "But don't expect more food. I barely have enough for myself." The puppy wagged its tail again, as if it understood. From that day, the boy and the puppy became inseparable. Arif named it Chatu. They shared everything: shade from trees, patches of grass to rest upon, and even laughter. When Arif was sad, Chatu curled against his side. When Arif worked in the fields, Chatu waited patiently at the edge. At first, his mother was worried. "Another mouth to feed, Arif. We can hardly feed ourselves." But when she saw the joy in her son's eyes, she said nothing more. Sometimes, joy was as important as bread. Weeks passed, and something remarkable began to happen. Arif, who once walked the village paths unnoticed, began to be seen. The neighbors watched as he cared for the puppy, giving away pieces of his own meals to keep it alive. They whispered among themselves, not with pity this time, but with respect. "Such a boy," one old woman said, shaking her head. "He has nothing, yet he shares what little he has." The village baker, who had often turned Arif away, began to leave small scraps of bread outside his shop. "For the pup," he would say gruffly, though his eyes softened. The farmer across the lane once handed Arif a bowl of milk, pretending it was left over. "The dog looks thin," he muttered. Bit by bit, the kindness that Arif had shown to Chatu began to ripple outward. What had started as one boy sharing his only bread became a spark that warmed the hearts of many. And Chatu? He grew stronger, livelier. His ribs no longer showed, and his fur shone when the sunlight touched it. He chased butterflies, barked at shadows, and filled Arif's days with laughter. Years later, when Arif was nearly a young man, he would look back at that morning, the morning he had given away his only bread, and realize it had changed everything. He had thought he was feeding a starving puppy. But in truth, he had fed his own soul, teaching it compassion, kindness, and the strength to give even when he had nothing. The story of Arif and Chatu spread quietly through the village, passed from one family to another, until it became something of a legend. People would tell their children, "Remember the boy who shared his bread with a puppy." Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way back. And the moral of Arif's story was simple, yet eternal: true wealth is not measured by what we keep for ourselves, but by what we are willing to give, even when we have little. For kindness, once shared, multiplies far beyond the moment.